Wizards of the Coast has just released another wave of Streets of New Capenna spoilers, and these ones all share a common theme. They're all very, very wrong.
Magic. I am a wizard! History. I'm an old wizard! The magic historian. My bones hurt.
Greetings, owners of fine luxury cardboard rectangles. My friends, we have gathered to talk about the wrongest of Streets of New Capenna spoilers. Every card we're going to talk about is wrong and not all for the same reason. So let's dive in and have a look. The first wrong card we're going to talk about is double wrong. This is Void Rend. 1 black, 1 blue, and 1 white for an instant that says this spell can't be countered. Destroy target non-land permanent. What a super powerful effect. 3 mana to destroy anything that is a non-land permanent with no restrictions in terms of you gotta pay extra life, you gotta sack a creature, you gotta give up an artifact. It's just straight up 3 mana, get rid of anything that's not a land. On top of that, we've just decided to slap the ability to not counter it onto the card as well. It feels genuinely strong and genuinely wrong. But on top of that, the actual artwork and concept of the card is also very wrong. This is a horrific way to go. The flavor text says, bits of the missing agent were discovered in various alleys all across 3 boroughs. That is nuts. You can see in the artwork, this individual is being unmade as multiple parts of the void tear him apart moat by moat. It's absolutely incredible and absolutely wrong. Imagine being pulled apart in this way and scattered on the winds. So cool though. Very, very strong card. I will definitely be slapping this in my cube. And this feels like one of those cards that over time is just going to get more and more valuable, right? Because this is essentially very, very close to Vindicate. The next wrong card we're going to talk about is Ginny Faye Jetmir's Second. Now, don't get me wrong, this is an interesting card. It's got a crazy casting cost. It's a hybrid green and white, 1 green, and a hybrid red and green. So you could actually cast this in a mono green deck for 3 green if you want, or you can go red, green, white. It works interestingly for a commander color identity too, right? And the abilities of the card are funky. You're getting a 3/3 for 3 mana, and it says, if you'd create 1 or more tokens, you may instead create that many 2/2 green cat creature tokens with haste, or that many 3/1 green dog creature tokens with vigilance. And that is pretty nutty to me, because it's not just creature tokens that you can replace. You could replace treasure tokens, clue tokens, any of those things with these cats or dogs, right? There's a lot of power here. Even if you just look in the set with the citizen tokens that are generated, this can turn them into cats and dogs. And the artwork is fun, right? You've got Ginny here looking super rich and elegant, very much what you would expect from a cabaret, right? They are the rich party people. So she's got her little pet animals there that she's taken down what almost feels like a red carpet walk. It's not a red carpet, right? But the floor is red, and you've got that feel almost of the paparazzi watching, even though it's just the lights in the background. It just gives that kind of glamorous aspect to it. But where it becomes wrong to me is this doesn't really line up with Ginny in the story in any way, shape, or form. Ginny is never portrayed with her animals, really. Like, she has a couple of pets, but she's not known as some super animal enthusiast. It's not like when she's out in the streets going after people, like when she's chasing down Elspeth, she's not using animals or anything of that nature, right? So the card itself is very cool, but in terms of how it flavorfully fits into the world of New Capenna, that's where we see the wrongness with this card. So I love that every card we're going to talk about is wrong in a different way. Let's move on to the unlicensed hearse, because this is really wrong. 2 mana for an artifact vehicle. Tap it to exile up to 2 target cards from a single graveyard. Unlicensed hearse's power and toughness are each equal to the number of cards exiled with it. Do you know what I just realized? I just remembered from like 25 years ago, when I was a young lad, I worked in a pizza place, and the dude who owned the pizza place, he owned a hearse, and it had lights on the bottom that were purple like this. What a crazy connection. He said that when he was a boy, he saw these bikers and they had a hearse with lights on the bottom, and he thought it was the coolest thing ever. So when he grew up, he got one of his own. And it was very striking. It's just nutty that I just realized this is literally like a hearse with purple lights underneath, just like my boss used to have. Although this one's a lot more messed up, 'cause you're stealing bodies. That's what's going on. You have an unlicensed hearse, and you keep going out and stealing corpses. It doesn't matter whose they are. Are they yours? Are they your opponents? It doesn't matter. It's so wrong. Just swiping bodies. And what are they doing? Are they like slapping them onto the hearse? Why does the hearse get more powerful with each body? Are they like infusing the souls into it? Is that magic that's flowing off the bottom of the vehicle? Literally soul energy? There is a lot of darkness to this art, right? Actually, a lot of the stuff we're going to talk about is dark. For example, Tainted Indulgence. One black and one blue for an instant that says draw 2 cards, then discard a card unless there are 5 or more mana values among cards in your graveyard. Now, I like this card because I find it to be very interesting design, right? 2 mana to get to draw 2 cards is a very powerful effect. You won't normally get to see that without conditions. Obviously, you have the same thing here, right? But the condition is one that's designed to make the card more powerful late game and weaker earlier game, which is great for a card draw ability like this. At the very beginning of the game, you're not going to be able to draw 2 cards because there's no way you're going to have 5 or more mana values among cards in your graveyard. And later in the game, you're far more likely to have these multiple mana values. And actually, I want to address this since this came up in a previous video when we talked about cards that say 5 or more mana values. These have to be different mana values, just so you understand. You can't have 5 cards and go, look, they all cost 1. That's 5 mana values. You have to have different mana values. If you have 5 cards in your graveyard that cost 1, you only have 1 mana value. That's the mana value of 1. So you need to have different mana values, right? If you had, let's say, for example, a card that cost 1 black and a card that cost 1 green, those are different mana values. But you have to have different mana values overall, right? It's weird because they've changed from the converted mana cost, and I understand why some people would think, oh, as long as I have 5 or more cards that have a casting cost in my graveyard, I can cast this. But that is not how it operates. Now, the wrongness for this card totally comes in from the flavor concept of it. You can see there are a number of glasses flowing with some delicious, juicy angel juice that is known as Halo, right? But take a look at the flavor text. Their toast to good health went immediately horribly awry. And you can see that one of these cups has been tampered with. And the Halo has turned into this black, viscous sludge. Imagine you raise a glass of what you think is normal Halo to your lips. You take one sip, and all of a sudden it turns into this black, tarry substance, and you just start choking, and then your life is done. That is horrific and so wrong. And I really like the fact that it kind of adds another level to Halo in that you can tamper with it. You can poison it, right? This is like pure angel essence. So the idea that it can be corrupted is interesting to me. I like that. And it definitely gives you that wrong flavor. You know what else is wrong? Having an avatar that is literally the embodiment of people's short lifespans. The shadow of mortality. This is the 2 black and 13. Can we take a moment and appreciate how ridiculously huge that casting cost is, but at the same time, how little space it takes up there in the actual title line? I mean, a lot of the times when you see big casting costs, they're going to spread all the way across the card, but this card has a significantly long name, a huge casting cost, and additional real estate up there, which to me is of note. Now, what exactly is it? It's a 7/7, and it has, if your life total is less than your starting life total, this spell costs X less to cast. where X is the difference. Now, my immediate question was, is this better in Commander or is this better outside of Commander? Because inside of Commander, losing 13 life isn't nearly as significant. In a one-on-one game, I'm down to 7 life, right? Versus like 27 life. There's a huge gap there. But at the same time, getting a 7/7 for 2 mana in a one-on-one game is probably going to be a lot more impactful than a situation where you are getting a 7/7 for 2 mana in a 4-player game where everyone has a lot more life. So it kind of like balances off in that way, right? I'm not actually sure if this is genuinely a good card. When I look at it, I feel there's a level of disappointment in terms of it not having any other abilities. Like, it's just a 7/7. It doesn't have trample or menace or whatever else. And yeah, you can get it out for 2 mana, but you also have to feed 13 of your life off and put yourself into more of a desperate situation. I know that it's kind of going for the same vibe that Death's Shadow has, but ultimately it doesn't feel on the surface like it's that insane. I don't know. I mean, conceptually, absolutely insane. The idea that there's so many human beings who have a fear of their own mortality that it literally creates an avatar of it, right? Because that's what's going on. This is essentially a being that is created out of people's belief and fear over their own ephemeral existence. And that is something that is pretty much impossible to avoid. I don't think that there are many people out there who don't spend at least a little bit of time contemplating existential things and really realizing that at some point their life is going to end. I mean, part of all the stuff that we do, I feel like, is to just distract ourselves. It's something to do until it happens. Let's look at some cardboard rectangles, boys, before we hit the holes in the ground. So it's like this card is wrong on multiple levels. It feels wrong to me that it doesn't have extra abilities, but it feels way more wrong as the living embodiment of people's terror of the end of their existence. And then literally it's going to go out and be that. It's also kind of funny to call it like a shadow of mortality. Like, how big is mortality itself then if this is just a pale shadow of it and it's 7/7? And look at the size and scale of this thing too, right? It is towering over massive buildings. It's got its hand held up where it's either catching a guy who's falling or whipping him up in the air. Maybe this is supposed to be like some guy has been thrown, maybe Falco has thrown a contract breaker off the building. And this is the shadow of mortality reaching out to grasp it. And the question is, would you rather be caught by the shadow of mortality in its hand, or would it be more terrifying to plummet through its smoky grasp and watch those fingers up above you thinking for a second it could stop your terminal velocity plummet, right? Like, that is some crazy flavor. I really dig this card conceptually. Now, let's move on to another wrong card. Unleash the Inferno. 1 green, 1 red, and 1 black, and 1 generic gets you an instant that deals 7 damage to target creature or planeswalker. Which, I mean, you got to pay 3 different colors of mana. 7 damage? I don't know. But then you read the rest of it and go, wait a minute. When it deals excess damage this way, destroy target artifact or enchantment an opponent controls with mana value less than or equal to that amount of excess damage. This is really sweet. This is easily going to be a 2-for-1 card where I'm going to get to destroy your biggest creature, your best planeswalker, because 7 damage is almost always enough, right? Basically, unless you're a giant dragon, 7 damage is going to be enough. 7's enough to take out the shadow of mortality. You can literally defeat an aspect of death using this spell, right? So that's already beefy. But then the fact is that the Inferno is so intense that it will like melt an artifact or enchantment down into nothingness at the same time through the power of its intensity is absolutely incredible, right? It's so wrong, the level of power that is being brought to bear here. I'm going to find a little 1/1 citizen and set it on fire so intensely that stuff around it, enchantments nearby, will melt down into their aspects. Like, what? That's amazing and wrong, right? And the art is fun. You can see an Inferno Blast just coming out and smoking this poor chump. Get some! It's all right. Now, let's talk about the card that was actually the inspiration for calling this video, like giving the theme of everything is wrong in this video. And that is Angelic Observer, a card that I genuinely don't believe should exist in this set because it's very confusing compared to the story. In the story of New Capenna, there are literally no angels. But yet here we have 1 white and 5 Angelic Observer, 3/3. The spell costs 1 less to cast for each citizen you control, flying. Still in solemn as the statues of her kind that decorated the Park Heights rooftops, she gazed in sorrow on the city below. There's no hint of angels anywhere in the story, like none. There's no like Giada turns out to be one. Yeah, she does, right? But there's no angels being angels. Nobody knows Giada's an angel. She doesn't have wings. She's not shown like this. Like this one doesn't even look like a statue. It's like, why is this so big? Look at the angel. Look at the size of the city, right? It's like she's standing up on top of a building, glowing like that. People would notice she's not a statue. She doesn't look like any of the statues. Just because she's not moving. Do you know what I mean? Like, for somebody who pays attention to the story and everything that's going on, why is this even in here? It drives me crazy. You know, whatever. Anyways, this isn't a super exciting card, so that's really all I have to say. The artwork is nice, but I can't enjoy it because it's too jarring. It yanks me outside of the world of Capenna and goes, this isn't the world you told me we were in, guys. I listened to your story. Why are you contradicting yourself? I don't appreciate it. Anyhow, speaking of the story, another installment of the New Capenna Side Stories is coming out today, so go ahead and check that out. I'll leave a link up on the screen over to Fantasy Geographic, where there are currently 6 lore videos about New Capenna, the 7th coming out today. Big thank you to all of my patrons. I will see you all, my friends, for the next video.